and we can push on to the Highlanders. Since Nels just rounded us out, Harry, do you want to take us again through the significant ins for the Highlanders?
Yeah, so a couple of big ones. First one is Jonah Lowe, the wing from the Chiefs. I think he's really good depth for them. Secondly, I should probably go to Clark Dermody, who was the assistant coach last year, who we're going to talk about a little bit more in the New Hot Chip podcast, because I think that it's important to touch on him in a little bit more detail there. So that'll come up in a couple of weeks. But also you got Toiaroa Tahuriarangi is coming in. There's just that little bit of doubt still over Falau Fakatava's ACL. He re-injured that at the back end of last year. He's trying to treat that without an operation, which would mean he's actually available for the Rugby World Cup. I know he's back in doing some running and team skills and stuff now, yet to really do full speed agility, which I think is what they're probably trying to ramp up at this point in the season. So it's a big question mark of if he gets through that or not, but it's pretty good to see Tahuriarangi getting another chance from the Crusaders, and obviously the Chiefs before that. Obviously, at one point was pretty much touted as a potential future All Black solution. It hasn't quite panned out that way, but extremely good player. Freddie Burns, who I know we're going to come back to soon, won the premiership last year. I think it was for the Leicester Tigers. With his drop goal, I want to say. Just a stock standard English 10 that has fantastic skills to control a game. Plays a lot of bench for them as well. I think they've got some international fly halves in there. That mean he wasn't getting a huge amount of game time. So great depth for them there. And Martin Bagaro is the only other one. Argentinian winger fullback from Bayonne. He played in the Argentinian backup side last year, and I think he was in the squad for the main team as well at the back end of last year in those Autumn Internationals. So big future for him. I guess just trying to get that exposure in Super Rugby for a higher level, and I know that they've got big raps on his future as well, and he's a big unit. Again, you'll hear about him more in the Hot Shit podcast.
For sure. Nels, do you want to take us through the significant outs?
Yeah, look, there's a lot that have left. I mean, we were talking about Clark Dermody coming in. Tony Brown has left so he can focus on Japan, obviously with the Rugby World Cup this year as well. Solomon Alamalo has been dropped out of the squad after everything last year. C.O. Tompkinson has headed to Wales. Is that correct?
The Dragons.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, okay. And Christian Leo Willie has headed to the back row, has headed to the Crusaders. And Liam Coltman, he's been there forever and been a real rock for them. He's headed to Lyon in France.
Yep.
Lots of names have dropped out. I mean,
I was going to say, and there's loads of names that have left.
Sam Caird, Ren Evans, Manaki Selby Rickett, just to name a few more. Nani Punavai, Coombs Fabling. There's a lot of guys there. Denny Solomona, he's only come in, and been there briefly. Freedom Vakaholo.
So many players, mate. It looks like they've lost. There's a few guys that were injury covers last year because they had so many injuries, but they've lost a squad of 20. Like, it's insane. But luckily they signed 6 players. Is it 1, 2, 3, 7? They've signed 7. So net negative for sure.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah, I was a bit bummed to see Christian Leo Willie getting signed, to the Crusaders, because I don't know how he's going to go for game time there, but I thought he looked really exciting last year in the few minutes he played. But yes, let's get on to the best 15. So we think this is how the best 15 shapes up in 2023 for the Highlanders. So up front, we've got All Black Ethan de Groot in there to your loose head. Andrew Makaleo, now kind of the bowling ball, has a bit of a lock on that starting jersey with Coltman heading off. It was Coltman, and who was the other hooker that played? It was Ash Dixon, I guess. They were the two that were kind of
a couple of seasons ago
repped for years. And they're both gone. And then Jermaine Ainsley in at tight head there was doing a really great job last year. So we think he'll start up front. And then we've got the Peri Peri Chicken, Pari Parkinson back, the big man.
How good.
Looking very fit, and did he miss the whole season last year from?
Sure
season from injury, and so hoping big year for him this year, and then Josh Dixon rounding out the locks for the tight five.
Great year last year as well for Dixon.
Also, potentially a very, very good back row for this side. One of the strong points, I think, for the Highlanders, if these guys are firing and performing well together. You got Shannon Frizzell at number 6, Billy Harmon at number 7, who really came into his own last year. Marino Michele Tu'u at number 8 as well, who he himself, looked like he was breaking into potentially good enough form to be, in the All Blacks a couple of years ago, back and forth with Sotutu, but he's starting to come into his own a little bit more a couple of years later, a bit slower to develop into the body he is now. Aaron Smith at the starting halfback spot for us. And one that might surprise a few, we got Mitch Hunt starting in the 10 jersey.
This had some debate, didn't it, behind the scenes, but I'm sure we'll get to this.
It has.
Could be a key question.
All right, I think, it could be. Centers, I've got Scott Gregory and Thomas Umaga Jensen. I thought Umaga Jensen had a breakout year last year before his injury. He was awesome. I think he'll be one of the first names on the sheet if he's actually fit, which I believe he is.
Yeah.
And Scott Gregory just continues to be one of those players that Cargie will never give the credit he is due. He has played exceptionally well, looks big, solid, good skills, obviously history in sevens as well, can play on the wing equally as well. I think he's probably the favourite. Obviously, a bit of competition from someone like Fatuli Paya as well, but I think he's your man. I think he's their first choice there. In the outside backs, I've got... I was
going to say, one of you punked me with someone had put in Peter Umaga Jensen and Thomas Umaga Jensen in the centres of the Highlanders, and I got so excited. I started searching websites to see if Peter had been signed over there. Couldn't wait, and then you stitched me.
How good would that be?
Yeah. Just wide goose chase, love it. And outside backs, Sammy Gilbert, obviously played at 10 at the back end of last year, which was... I think he did an all right job, to be honest, but he's definitely more of an outside back in our opinion. Jonah Nareki back after missing all of last year after being probably the best up-and-coming player in 2021. Just fantastic. So hopefully he's got that form back. It'll be huge for the Highlanders. And then Connor Garden Bashop, I hear he broke his PB for his Bronco test by 5 seconds at the preseason, so he's the fittest he's ever been, by at least a little margin, but excellent player who I think will just continue to go from strength to strength now that he's established himself as a regular starter in Super Rugby.
For sure. And do we see him at fullback?
I think so. Yeah, obviously, he's got some competition with Sam Gilbert. Those two are kind of interchangeable, but I think Connor Garden Bashop's probably the one.
Yeah. Fair.
I agree.
All right, and then onto the bench. So backing up at hooker, we've got Lenny Apasai, the seasoned campaigner who's been around to most squads, and Reece Marshall was getting a lot of game time there. So it'll be an interesting fight between them two to kind of lock out the backup spot at hooker for the Highlanders. And then we have Daniel Leonard Brown, DLB, has been consistently kind of in the Highlanders squad for the last few years, but has consistently kind of bounced between starting and your backup, Lucy. So we'll see how he goes for game time. And then Saula Ma'au, I never always get his name incorrect, but the absolutely massive unit with the dreads, who is awesome to bring on for probably the last 20 to 30 in the Highlanders games. So definitely keep your eyes out on him.
Quick question, guys. How old's Daniel Leonard Brown? Feels like he's been around for 15 years.
31? I don't know. That's a guess.
No, because ALB is always younger than you think. So I reckon he's like maybe 29.
Oh, he's 29. Well done.
Oh, I'm good.
He seems so much older in my head.
Because ALB is probably only 25 or something, maybe 26 now. But ALB, I thought years ago was already 26 or something. But anyway.
He broke into the same.
Anton Leonard Brown, 27 years old.
27, okay, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we shouldn't go on to him, though. That's getting a little bit too off track. Nelson?
We've got a couple slashed in here. Fabian Holland, the man born in
Fabian, fabulous.
He is Dutch. Fabian could be the name from his homeland. He's a big boy I think he's 204 centimeters, and we've got Max Hicks, who's pretty big as well, just under that 2 meter mark. I think can cover back row as well. So one of those two is slotting into that role.
Hicks was very much like a Manaki Selby Rickett type mold. So yeah.
And then we've got James Lenches covering the bench back rower spot as well, and he is a very good player. But with Billy Harmon as captain, we've got him on the bench for sure.
I think Hicks might get the first run over Holland. Holland apparently dislocated his patella in the preseason. So I think he's probably trying to get back for like round 3 or 4, something around there. So who knows? I probably pick Holland in my team on the bench, but I think he probably won't get first stab because of that. In the backs, Folau Fakatava. If we're picking our best side, let's be honest, he's the guy. But if he's not there or he has a hiccup with the instability of his knee at all, then obviously we're going to get Tahuri Arangi. And then you got Freddie Burns on our bench, the finisher, just bring him on to kick the winning goals in the tight matches. Marty Banks-esque. I know that we've slashed him with Marty Banks on the 23, but I can't bring myself to actually do that on the announcement in our 23.
Party at Marty's, mate. I backed Marty, but
I mean, Marty Banks for me, he starts or he's not in. I just start him. Don't worry about it. And then finally, we got Jonah Lowe. We think probably the favourite for the bench outside back spot. Again, hotly contested. Like there are a couple of guys there in the outside backs that it could be. We were looking at like Viliami Koroi. Josh Timu obviously got some time. Masesi Dawai kind of started to come into his own through the back end of the year as well. There is a fair few options there.
Absolutely. All right, well, look, that takes us into some key questions. And, of course, as always, we've already discussed kind of half of them. But, I mean, Fakatava's non-knee op, I mean, I think you've really said it all. You know, it's just he hasn't gone in for the operation. He's trying to naturally heal it. I guess we're lucky to have two health professionals on this podcast. How does that tend to hold up, Harry and Nels?
I guess the big thing is you don't know that you are going to successfully cope until you do. So every step he goes through, he's obviously hit all his benchmarks in terms of his knee looks good and it's strong. But once he goes and starts pivoting and cutting in a game situation where there's everything else going on, he might just be unstable. And if he is, he needs to go have the operation and he'll be out. So as soon as he collapses in training, then he's going to have an op. So you would think he's gotten this far. He's probably looking more likely than not to go well with it. But it can go wrong pretty quickly. So, you know, definitely big question marks over him. But fingers crossed it works for him and he's available for the All Blacks.
Yeah, when he did it, it was just before the All Blacks end of season tour as well. So he knew that the time was tight coming into the Rugby World Cup and has gone down this avenue. You know, maybe if he had more time, he wouldn't have done that. But he's backed himself and yeah, hopefully he goes well.
Yeah, maybe it's been stitched up before. You know, you ask a surgeon if you need surgery. I mean, what are they going to say? Give me the cha-ching. So he's
my favourite saying, mate, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But I must preface that professionally that plenty of good surgeons these days don't look at it like that.
Very good. All right, we've said how big a role will Freddie Burns play. I think it's an interesting question. Look, he's obviously there to bring you know, a whole lot of his experience and I guess just like, you know, half player coach it type of thing, but he really could be the type of player to just, you know, slow things down and bring a bit more structured footy to, well, you'd have to say the Highlanders are probably, I was going to say the Highlanders have gone from being one of the least structured teams to, I feel, one of the more structured teams in recent years in Super Rugby. Is that how you guys see them, Foley? Just comparatively?
Not really. I still think they play very high tempo. I think last year was hard to go off, mate. The whole back line was injured. Like what can you possibly take from that, to be honest? Under the roof, I think they've always been a very fast-paced team. I think they know that they have to play quick because they don't have a team that's quite as bulky as some of the other Super Rugby sides, particularly in New Zealand. So I think they'll continue to do that. But with Freddie Burns, I think what you'll get is just someone that makes good decisions, maybe plays a little bit more field position so they're not attacking out of their own 22 kind of thing. So, you know, they were reasonable at that last year, but I just feel like you made one look at the bloke. Surely he's like your linchpin quarterback. You just start him all year long, don't you?
That's what he looks like. I mean, but yeah, look, if you're someone that's played 319 caps across, you know, professional, not even international stuff, he's played a little bit for England as well, but 319 caps, you're a very experienced man, and he's a very steady player, Freddie Burns. So he could be the gel they need this season, but. You know, it's tough. Does he start? You know, is he a bit more of a mentor for Mitch Hunt and gets his game time as well? I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
Make a call, boys. We went on our 23. We ended up saying Hunt. Individually, I want to hear who's their first choice 10 by the end of season. Is it Freddie Burns or is it Mitch Hunt or someone else?
I'm gonna stick with Mitch Hunt if he keeps playing well. I think there's the point of difference. I think Mitch Hunt is a different type of player, whereas Freddie Burns and Marty Banks are more similar. So I think Mitch Hunt's more what they want to get around. But
Nelson,
we'll see.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say Mitch Hunt. I think Freddie Burns will get a bit of a run there, but he's very much at the back end of his career, and I don't think the Highlanders are going to be winning the tournament. Is my opinion this year. So he'll be there for a bit of a mentor, see how they go through early and mid through the season. But I think they're going to end the season at the very least with Mitch Hunt and probably give him a crack at the start as well.
And quick note on that as well, Mitch Hunt still hasn't played since late last year because of a concussion, I think against the Western Force. So he is, I think, just getting back into contact at the moment. So obviously long-term concussion, always a bit of a worry. They're not rushing him back. So fingers crossed he's ready for the start of the year, but he's still got some hurdles to go through.
Excellent. And thanks, Nelson, for ruining the next question by saying you don't think the Highlanders will be real contenders. But the question was, with so many players injured last year, it was an absolute bloodbath. Will all of these big guns coming back, we're talking Parry Parkinson, Shannon Frizzell, Hunt, Thomas Umaga Jensen, Jonah Nareki, big players, will that make enough of a difference to get them to win some games and look like contenders in that New Zealand conference?
I mean, geez, it helps, but my opinion is still no. I don't think they're at the very back end of the pointy end of the season. I mean, if they're not making finals, something's wrong. You know, they should be doing better than they did last year, but I just don't think there's necessarily the leadership and sustainability of a lot of these players throughout an entire season to perform at that level to get themselves to the grand final and win the tournament.
Excellent. Harry, in 5 words or less?
No, because of the lack of bench.
How'd he do? He blew it.
I was like 12 or something, I guess.
Excellent. And look, I do think it'll make a huge difference, but I don't think they're going to be contenders. I just think New Zealand's too good over there. So cool. Let's get to, we had another listener question from Whitaker Walt again, and it was just, how do you see the Highlanders managing minutes between Aaron Smith and Fakatava? So obviously a lot of this will come down to Fakatava's injury status, but if he gets injured, we bring in Triple T, they can still manage Aaron Smith. Well, I think, Aaron Smith's definitely going to the World Cup and they've got to manage a lot of his minutes. He's got to do all the All Black rests. And, their preference will be to be able to play a lot of Folau Fakatava as soon as possible, I guess. Is that how you boys said?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I see it. Aaron Smith's 34, trying to make a Rugby World Cup in the twilight of his career, even though he's very, very good. He has played a lot of rugby. So I do think they're going to be looking to give him more rest time than, the All Blacks rest. And I think we've seen him get more rest time, progressively over the last few years. So if Fakatava is fit, I think they'll be using him lots. But yeah, hopefully we get to see them both running around the paddock.
Let's say if he's fit, Fakatava starts 6 games. Aaron Smith rests completely for 3 of those and comes off the bench for the other 3. That's probably how I would pick it.
Yeah, I like
for
it.
Sure. And I mean, look, in doing Aaron Smith enough respect here, Nels. I mean, he's 34, but what? We're still saying he's up there in one of the top 3 halfbacks in the world. You'd have to say.
Brilliant.
For sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want to get him injured leading into this World Cup either.
No, not at all. All right, stocks are rising. Let's breeze through these. We've kind of covered a lot of this before. So, Parry Parkinson, they're going to see a big year from him. They're going to give him bulk minutes. He's looking fit as he's ever been. He's looking massive. So it's really he's the lock in this team. No offense to Dixon, but Parry Parkinson is. Frizzell, again, coming off an injured season, can be arguably one of the best 6s in New Zealand.
I thought he was the best 6 in New Zealand last year for the All Blacks, to be honest.
Look, Akira Iwani for mine, boys, but that's, I've got a soft spot for the man. But look, yeah.
Their season changed. Their season turned around last year when he came in and created a massive physical impact for that side.
Yeah, for sure. Thomas Umaga Jensen, a player I'll be fighting you to get this year, Nelson. I'm not going to let you get him in the draft, mate. I'd love TUJ or Harry, whoever got him.
Draft pick.
No, he's mine. All right, I'm having him. He's probably the centre that I enjoy watching run the ball the most in New Zealand.
Enjoy him on my team, mate.
There is Rieko Ioane, but massive year for TUJ. And then last one, Freddie Burns. How does he fit in? We've talked that to death, but we put him in stocks are rising because we think he'll feature. So there we go. Stocks are falling. Who wants to take us through that bit?
I mean, the flip side of that is Mitch Hunt. His stocks are falling because enter Freddie Burns into the conversation. So that's pretty tough for him, and could really make him a bit more of a risky player to pick. And one of you boys think James Lenches is, potentially falling with the competition of Sean Withy, waiting in the wings, 191 centimeters, 108 kilograms, just turned 23, but a couple of years back in the under-20s, he was the Super Rugby player of the tournament. Lots of potential, and has been going from strength to strength in his rookie season, and eventual championship winners against the Crusaders. Harry?
Yep. And then on Smokies, I got Martin Bogado, the Argentinian who I've already discussed, 191 centimeters, 97 kilo. He was brought in, and the coaching team said it was because of his point of difference and his ability to compete in the air. So imagine pairing him with Freddie Burns and just taking little pot shot, high cross kicks all day long. Obviously, Mitch Hunt has a huge accurate kicking game rather. As well. So I think he could complement that team really well, considering they probably haven't completely locked in their reserve outside back.
Yeah, and I'd say go watch his highlights. His own highlights. Absolute gun.
Yeah. And then in the same vein, I guess, Masesi Dawai is such an exciting player to see. Really probably let the opportunity slip early in 2022. I thought he was better in the back end, just made way too many errors when he first came through, but he looked pretty good. And he's a player that if he is comfortable, you could see him being someone that just makes a name for himself, and you just can't take the jersey off him as well.
Absolutely. All right, Landers, done.